Hi guys, I'm Andrea and today I'll be doing my January wrap-up. In the month of January, I read 4 books and I didn't finish 2 books, so let's talk about them. Let's get started. So the first book I read was Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich, and I already made a video on this. But basically this is a story about a girl who was pregnant in a world where this is a rarity and she's being hunted down for it. The character is both passive and headstrong, which makes for an interesting combination, but this book is really captivating and intriguing. The problem I had with this book is that there are too many mystery boxes. The mystery box idea is better explained in this TED Talk by J.J. Abrams, but basically it's the idea that mystery boxes are created in stories and movies to give infinite possibilities. It's a way to not box your overarching arc into set guidelines or rules. The problem was, however, is that there was too many mystery boxes created in this book without proper setup, explanation, or payoff. As readers, we're presented to them and we're supposed to take them as fact. But because the book is being told by this first-person narrator, there's a certain level of ambiguity and unreliable narrator-ness that just leaves the reader feeling more confused, I think. Overall, this book is a fun ride, but there is a lot of bumps along the way. The next book I read was Exit West by Muhsin Hamid, and I loved this book. I get all the hype now. I am aboard that hype train. So 2 young people are forced to flee their country after falling in love because of war. One of my favorite things about this book was how well the magical realism flowed into the story, because it did not appear until very well into the book. So in the novel, doors are portals to different countries where refugees can escape through, and I don't know why this reminded me of this, but somehow reading that, it made me a little bit nostalgic. It reminded me of going home after school in the 4th grade and reading a book that I really loved. It just gave me this wave of nostalgia, and I don't know why, but I loved it. Anyways, so the more fantastical elements, I think, are truly a testament to the type of writer Muhsin is, because I think that this idea could have failed spectacularly, but it didn't. The themes of this book are very bittersweet. It's about falling in love and out of love and all the complexities that come with that, and it's about falling in love with the right person at the wrong time, and vice versa even. It's falling in love with the wrong person at the right time. And it just gives you a lot to think about, and it stays in your mind well past its pages. The next book I read was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, and this was my favorite book I read this month, but not by much, because I really did adore Exit West. So this book is a collection of queer women feminist stories, short stories. Each story is connected through the supernatural, the erotic, the eerie, and the near dystopian. I love this book because it deals with the taboo, whether that be mental or emotional or physical. I think that this book is very, very, very similar to Difficult Woman by Roxane Gay. And I know that both authors are fans of each other. Roxane actually wrote a little foreword, I think, in Carmen's book. But it deals with the same concepts of feminism and agency, and I think this book revolves a lot around agency. One of my favorite stories in Her Body and Other Parties is the story about a virus that just wipes out civilization and destroys everything, but it's not told through a traditional means. It's told through one woman's sexual encounters, which I thought was so interesting because I haven't seen that before. This author loves symbolism and she loves allegory, and I think this is best seen in the very first story in this novel, which is called The Husband's Stitch. The Husband's Stitch is a retelling of the popular folklore about the green ribbon. So in this story, a girl wears a green ribbon choker for her entire life, and when she finally takes it off, her head falls off. In Carmen's reimagining, this story turns into one of female agency and about how much do you have to give to a significant other until that is enough. There's a certain Southern Gothic feel to this book, which I absolutely adore, and it's so haunting and fascinating, and it's just a book that I think everybody should read, honestly. The next book I read was Selection by Kira Klass, and I hated this book. I'm not even gonna lie, I hated this book. I got the loan from my ebook library because it was there, it was available, and I've seen this cover everywhere, so I was like, I'm just going to read this book. I know it's a few years old, but whatever. It's kind of like The Bachelor meets The Hunger Games, because it takes place in a world where like current society has been destroyed and everybody is in this kind of caste system, and they are being ruled by a king and a queen, and they have a prince. So when the prince is going to get married, they pick his wife by randomly selecting girls from each caste and like putting them in this reality TV show to vie for his love. And the concept wasn't what got me the most, although it is kind of weird and I was like low-key raising my eyebrows. It was the writing. I hated the writing in this book, and I'll read a little bit of it so you can see what I'm talking about. He was tall, but not too tall, thin, but not too thin. Like, what does that even mean? Everybody has a different definition of what too tall or too thin or thin and tall means, so it's kind of like you could literally be describing a shapeless glob and I wouldn't know otherwise, you know? In a way, it was actually refreshing because I haven't disliked a book this much since I read Ready Player One. So thanks for that, Kira Cass. Another thing that got me was that the 18-year-old prince kept talking like he was an old man. He kept referring to everybody as my dear, and he kept using these very long sentences, which I guess was to make the reader see that he's way more sophisticated and has this bougier upbringing than all these girls, but like, it just made me laugh. The female main character is not much better. She's very much that stereotype in YA where the girl's like, I'm not like the other girls. I'm hard around the edges and I'm tough and fuck this shit. I hate you. I hate the prince. And like, fuck this government, which, okay, cool. But when she's presented on opportunities to change things, she didn't do anything. And I know this is a series and the problems that were in this book probably carry on through the rest, but I feel like there should have been something else. Like, I felt like the end of this book felt like the middle of the book, and I feel like if that was the case, in some other minor plot or minor problem should have been introduced in the main bulk of the text, so you wouldn't be just left hanging and being like, about the book, you know? Honestly though, kudos to the author for managing to make an empire out of these books and attracting so many young people to them and getting them to read, so yay for that. But I will not be continuing this book at all. And now on to the books I did not finish. The first book I did not finish was All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stivator, and I got like 70% of this book done and then I just stopped. So this is about a Mexican family, the Soria family in Bicho Raro, Colorado. It's a very small desert town, and they are a family of miracle makers. They can grant miracles to people, and they're known as the town saints. People from everywhere come to them and try to get their miracles granted, but there is a catch. Once the miracle is given, the person has to defeat their own darkness/curse in order to have the miracle actually realized. And once this happens, once a person is kind of in this darkness stage of the miracle, the Soria family cannot intervene whatsoever. And if they do, they will themselves get the darkness. So they can't intervene in any way, shape, or form. It's a fine enough book. I think really the problem was that I read it with the wrong batch of books, excluding the selection. Like, the other books that I read this month were very, very well written and very amazing. And this book is good and well written as well, but it was like a notch below everything else. The thing that I think happened to me and why I did not finish this book this month was that the plot was super slow. Very slow plot. It didn't start to pick up until well into the middle of the book, and I think that because of this, I just lost interest. For me, it felt like it was a lot of world building and not enough plot, but I have not finished this book, so maybe I will try to now. Maybe it redeems itself in the last act. So, the last book I did not finish was The World Goes On by Laszlo Krasznakorakai. I don't know how to say it, but this is a translation. It's originally a Hungarian book, and it's a collection of short stories told by the same narrator, which I interpreted as kind of this omnipresent God. But this book, one of the first things I learned about it from a review was that it was like getting lost in the most wonderful maze. and that sounded so interesting to me, but what I did not realize was how much of a maze it would really be. The first chapter in this book is one giant sentence, and that giant sentence lasts 10 pages. And this is how it looks like on the inside. When it's like this, it feels very like cramped together. So it takes a lot of close reading because each word basically is valuable information. This book, however, reminds me so much of the Metamorphosis because each world, each chapter feels like it is so claustrophobic and so intimate and so manic. So I get that same sense of kind of paranoia almost that I got from reading The Metamorphosis. So yeah, those are the books I read in January. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.